Hi, my name's Alyssa. This is Stories and Spoilers, the podcast. I'm so sorry for the audio quality in advance. My computer died, so I'm using my iPad and still kind of testing things out. I don't currently have a mic for it yet, so I'm hoping the audio is really clear. But this episode is going to be a full book talk about a love song for Ricki Wilde. I am super, super excited to discuss this book because honestly, there's something about how clear and how beautifully written this romance is. Like, I can't express enough how much I adored Breeze and Ricky's love story. I just thought that they were such a cute and adorable couple, especially the way that their love story is a bit of a slow burn. It took some time for them to really kind of fall in love, really understand each other. I don't want to go into spoilers just yet. There's going to be a non-spoiler segment, which is about 5 minutes, and then a whole spoiler talk. With the spoiler talk, I won't go into the entire description of the story, but I will discuss my favorite moments, key elements, as well as what happens in the book. I understand that with these episodes, there are some people who do not end up reading the book, who just want to know what happens. And then there are people who get that non spoiler section and they're like, oh, I do want to read this. So I'll give you a warning before we dive into spoilers. But first things first, I want to go through the book tropes. I also want to go through my favorite quotes, and I posted my celebrity casting for this book on my Instagram. You can follow me at stories.and.spoilers.podcast. So that's on Instagram. I'll link it in the show notes below as well. So you can just copy and paste or just press the link and it'll pull you right there right away. I read this as an audiobook and then I bought a physical copy because this thing is gorgeous and I do plan on rereading it and annotating it. I'm also planning on reading Tia Williams' other book, 7 Days in June. The characters from that book do show up in the story very briefly, and I didn't have context for it, but I've heard amazing things. So I do end up wanting to read that book very soon. But yeah, first things first, I want to say how much I loved this book. I would highly recommend reading this maybe in the autumn or the spring. It's set in New York and it is absolutely adorable. So let's just go straight into reading the blurb. One florist, one pianist, one love story, 100 years in the making. Ricki Wilde has many talents, but being a Wilde isn't one of them. As the impulsive, artistic daughter of a powerful Atlanta dynasty, she is the opposite of her famous socialite sisters. Where there are long-stemmed roses, she is a dandelion. An adorable bloom that's actually a weed, born to float wherever the wind blows. In her bones, Ricki knows that somewhere a different, more exciting life awaits her. When a regal Miss Della invites her to rent the bottom floor of her Harlem brownstone, Ricki jumps at the chance for a fresh beginning. She leaves behind her family, wealth, and a chaotic romantic decision to realize her dream of opening a flower shop in New York City. And just beneath the surface of her new neighborhood, the music, stories, and dazzling drama of the Harlem Renaissance still simmers. One evening in February, as the heady curiosity of off-season scent of night-blooming jasmine fills the air, Ricki encounters a handsome, deeply mysterious stranger who knocks her world off balance in the most unexpected way. Set against the backdrop of a contemporary Harlem and 1920s decadence, A Love Song for Ricki Wilde is a modern fairy tale of two passionate artists drawn to a magic and romance of New York and whose lives are irreversibly linked. So that is a description of A Love Song for Ricki Wilde. If I was going to describe some of the book tropes that I kind of got the vibe of while I was reading, I got definitely contemporary romance. It has humorous elements, family issues. There's a horticulturist female main character. Ricki works with plants. It's set in Harlem. It references the Harlem Renaissance quite a bit. So for lovers of history, music, Black culture, and the beauty and diversity of it all, you're going to love this book. It also references social anxiety representation. You see that with Ricki. It references a lot about Black history, as well as I do want to give trigger warnings for loss of relatives, hate crimes. There's also a bit of description of substance abuse from a loved one, so that can be tough. And there is description of death. this book on the spicy level in reference to intimacy and sex, this book does have a bit of spice. It's more so in the end of the book. It's a lot of longing, it's a lot of desire. It is sexy, but it doesn't get there till much later. So if you're the kind of person who loves a slow burn and wants that passion later on and really enjoys floral and intricate writing, then you're gonna absolutely adore this. And if you don't want any spice at all, there is spice in the end. So not a lot, but I think there's like 2 to 3 scenes. I also want to share some of my favorite quotes. One is, love is like listening to an album. Some people skip to their favorite songs and ignore the rest. Others listen to the entire album over and over until it's familiar and cherished, until they know every part. He was the music I could listen to forever. To Ricki, the entire building felt like a gift delivered by time, magical. They didn't have time, but they had each other. Visit your elderly landlady for tea and British Bake Off. I hear she's recently widowed and would really enjoy company. XX. That's a note from Della, who was absolutely adorable. I really, really liked her. And I just, once you see who I cast as her in the If This Became a Movie or a Show, I posted on Instagram. Bro, I loved Della. She was like the sweet, grandma like character who had a lot of sass. Her commentary about Ricki's life and her love life was absolutely adorable. I just liked her perspective on life. It was very fresh and very grounded. I'm going to just kind of pop out a few more quotes. These all do not have context, but the writing is absolutely beautiful. So I hope this gives you a taste for how Tia Williams wrote this love story. Get gritty, get scary, but don't give up. The way Ricki stays grounded when she experiences hardship as a new business owner, as a Black woman, as someone who doesn't feel understood and seen in her family, you do feel so deeply for her. My thoughts are a graveyard. America was a ghost story. Her brand of destruction is exactly what Breeze needed. I'm just teaching you how to be easier to love. Trigger warning for a manipulative mom figure. Ugh. Fine men with a complicated past are my kryptonite. Ricki felt that romanticizing unpleasant things like New York winters was self-care. And then these are some quotes that are from conversations in the book. Is the story tragic or romantic? To me, it's romantic, wildly romantic. To me, it's tragic. Abandoning your love because you know your love will hurt them sounds like torture. Sounds like you know from experience. I really should go now. He didn't budge. Every time she tried to leave, she couldn't, and he didn't want to either. I'm curious about you. Well, curiosity killed the cat. Everyone forgets the rest of the saying. Curiosity killed the cat, but satisfaction brought it back. Whatever. I saw it, I felt it. The cat returns for more, 9 lives and all that. How many lives do you have left? I think I'm on my last one. Don't waste it. But can we please agree to avoid each other? It's better that way. I'll forget we even met. Thank you. And just so you know, I'm curious too. Harlem was a modern neighborhood superimposed over an old one. If she looked hard enough, Ricki could make out the contours of a ghost city, these subtle nudges of the past, giants that had once walked these streets. That beneath the 2024 version of the city was an enchanted universe. So much had been lost to gentrification or the natural passing of time. Folks say if you're in the presence of a tornado, it looks still, that it means it's heading right towards you. I have no idea what that means, but the trivia connoisseur in me finds this information compelling. You are the tornado, ma'am. When I saw you, everything went still, still and calm, like a tornado before it completely decimates you. I'm not scared of you. I'm scared of us. Your thoughts are loud. You can't do this, not on Black History Month. There is a character in the book named Tuesday who's like the best friend character. And she gets into a disagreement and that's her response. Like, don't do this. It's Black History Month. I'm like, damn, girl. The commentary was so like, she felt like a real person. And I just loved her spunk and like her level of like, take no shit energy. I would read a whole book about Tuesday. 3 more quotes I absolutely adored were, anything less than the truth is a lie. Since they hadn't met every moment they weren't together felt wasted. To believe in some magic is to believe in all. You couldn't be terrified of demons without believing in angels too. If you believe in good Yelp reviews, you have to believe in the shitty ones too. So that is my last kind of description of the book. Before we jump into spoilers, I do want to say this is one of my favorite books, like, of all time. This is one of my favorite romance books of all time. It was that good. Like, it was that good. So if you are looking for a good read, if you're trying to listen to an audiobook, it was dual POV. So you got his voice and hers. I highly recommend A Love Song for Ricki Wilde by Tia Williams. For everyone who has not read this book yet and does not want spoilers, please end the podcast now. Thumbs up on YouTube, please subscribe. Also follow me on Spotify. Give a nice rating if you can. Please be kind in the comments as well. But yes, I do recommend this book a lot. I do recommend you read it as an audiobook first and then get a physical copy if you just want to annotate like me. All right, so we're hopping right into the spoiler talk. If you don't want spoilers, go. If you don't mind, stay. Okay, so what is the catch? Like, why can't Ricki and Ezra, aka Breeze, be together? Well, what happened? What happened is um Ezra was a musician during the Harlem Renaissance. He was getting pretty famous. He would play in clubs. He was a bit of a ladies' man. He ended up talking to this one girl, and she got into a bit of trouble, and he was trying to help her. And she would have these extreme emotional fits. Like, if something went wrong or if she felt used, rumor had it in New York that she had powers, like she would curse people. And he was like, I don't believe in that. Turns out that was actually true. And he ends up wanting to break up with her. And long story short, she does not take that well. She wanted to go back to his small town with him from where he came from. She wanted him to make an honest woman out of her, to get married, have kids, all that. He was not in that place in his life. He did not want to do that. And she cursed him. She cursed him and pretty much said that if you won't be with me, I'm going to curse whoever you do end up falling in love with, that she's going to die the same day that I die. And she throws herself off of the brownstone, the party they're at. She throws herself off of the roof. And then Ezra, aka his musical name, everyone call him Breeze. He ends up living for like 20 plus years. Like, my man's not aging. He tries to hide away at his big house. He implements like music. He produces music. He had a lot of ideas about certain songs. His muse, he had visions of his true love over all these years. And his true love is Ricki. But he knows the day he meets her, they're only going to have a short period of time to be together. And that fate would lead that she would die the same day that his ex-girlfriend died. So if his ex-girlfriend died on May 2nd, then his love was going to die on May 2nd in 2025 or 2026. Like, she's going to go. It's just her fate. So he was trying to avoid Ricki, but at the same time, he saw a painting of her ex-boyfriend, like kind of a fling did, and he had his therapist buy it because he's like, he just wanted to see her, without having to put her in danger. But long story short, he ends up bumping into Ricki at this garden one night. She ends up wandering out to kind of stay grounded. She's really overwhelmed with her new business. And she ends up bumping into him, and she smells night blooming jasmine, and it's not in season, which is kind of magical and weird. But she ends up bumping into him, and he's sexy and mysterious. And long story short, they do end up falling in love, and they try to go to like this book event where there's like a woman who speaks of curses and all that, which is one of the characters from 7 Days in June. She's there, and her partner's there as well. So I'm very excited to read that book because I don't really know that much about that character. But long story short, they have to break this curse by destroying this item that the person would have been attached to, but it was so long ago. And they just feel like they don't have a lot of hope. They feel like they can't break the curse. So they end up just sleeping together, spending as much time together as they possibly can. And they're just trying to make the most of their time. And then Miss Della lives in the same building as Ricki. She lives on like the top floor ish. And it alludes to her being sick, to having some kind of illness. And she has all these things that she wants to do before she passes on. Like, she wants to have pink hair. She wants to date a woman. She misses her husband. She loves him very much, but she's very at peace. If she goes, she's at peace with that. Like, she's mentally ready to pass on. And it later is revealed that she does have an illness. So that was rough to read. But long story short, the same time that Ricki was supposed to pass on, she goes to the roof with Ezra, and they hold each other, they kiss, they're kind of mentally getting ready for however this curse is going to occur. And it turns out that Miss Della ends up actually succumbing to her illness. And she says, "My life has been good. I'm not scared of dying. Life sits shoulder to shoulder with death." Um, and she says, "Wherever I go, I'll be safe with him," her husband. And Miss Della ends up passing on, and you end up finding that Miss Della, she never really knew who her mom was, and there was a lot of heartbreak there because of that. And they end up finding a photo of Miss Della's mom, who actually was Ezra's ex-girlfriend, Felice, the girl who did the curse and all that. Since she had a baby, like she had a really, there was a lot going on in her life. Long story short, that baby was Miss Della. So Miss Della ends up dying the same time that Ricki was supposed to die. So the curse is gone because Mistilla, I guess, was the last like element or reference to Felice's life, to my understanding. So it it was just beautiful because all the stories kind of connect in a way. You get a lot of references throughout the book of Ezra's past and the things he had to experience as a Black man. Through many historical experiences, he worked on a field, he had to experience racism during the Harlem Renaissance, having a business, pursuing music. There was all these elements of like fate linking Ricki and Ezra together. Like Ezra's piano, Ricki ends up having in her old apartment. And she feels connected to the piano but doesn't know why. And it turns out it's because it's Ezra's piano. So that was also really beautifully written. It didn't feel forced, like them being together or their attraction to each other. It did make sense over times, which I really, really enjoyed. And then it ends up kind of doing a bit of a time jump. And you end up seeing that the curse is broken. And Ezra hasn't Ezra hasn't cried in like 50 years. And this man's crying when the curse is broken because he's like, "Oh my God, you're still alive." And she is because Della ended up passing on and breaking that curse in that way. Um, so yeah. Also, Ezra couldn't feel pain. So when he realizes the curse is broken, he breaks a bottle, cuts his hand, and he feels pain. So the curse is broken on not only him, but also Ricki, um, which is really, really sweet. And it's there's a note from Della to Ricki and Ezra that they end up finding. And this is what's written on the note once the curse is broken. "Dear Ricki and Ezra, now stop it, Ricki. I've lived a beautiful life and experienced great love. The kind of love my mom wanted and never had." The mom being Ezra's ex-girlfriend, Felicia. So you do end up seeing that Della, even though her mom was no longer around in her life, she did end up finding a wonderful man. You've learned more about her life. You see her explore queer romance as well later in her life. You just see her experience life in a fuller way. So yeah, I keep that in mind because you just see her life didn't end because her mom wasn't there. She did end up having a beautiful life. Okay, so this is the note. "The kind of love my mom wanted and never had. I feel guilty, but hey, being the lucky one. I can't think of a noble cause than to die for love. Love should never hurt. Rejection, abandonment, cruelty. But love, no. Promise me you'll choose to love each other hard and pass it on. I always wondered what my purpose was. Being your grandmother has been one of my greatest joys. That's all for now. Off to see my sweet doctor again. Always Miss Della, your new angel." Miss Della's husband was a doctor, so I thought it was really sweet how she referenced like she was going to go see him in heaven again. And the epilogue is February 29th, 2036. So her life is supposed to end that February, but it ends up continuing, and she ends up um you get this chapter from Miss Della's point of view and like the ancestral plane, which is very beautiful. She's watching over Ricki and Ezra as they get married. Um, and they don't they it later alludes that Ricki and Ezra never told anyone about the curse. They only told Tuesday, her best friend. Tuesday was really into like crystals and facials, and she used to be a child star, and she had a really like hard time breaking away from that. But it was beautiful to see that in the epilogue, Tuesday has her own facial spa. She's living her best life. Ezra got his bachelor and master's at NYU as a music professor, so he was able to kind of continue teaching music, which is really cool. He wasn't hiding in the shadows anymore. And it's all this entire epilogue is told through Miss Della's point of view, which I thought was so perfect because she's just watching their lives from heaven and she's still kind of involved in their lives in a really beautiful way. Ricki and Ezra got a dog and they renovated the brownstone where Miss Della lived, and they're getting married on Leap Day, which is similar to the kind of the connection to their love story. They have 4 daughters: Hazel, Minnie, Lo, and Della. Tuesday was the maid of honor. Their dog was the ring bearer. And there's a violin version of Ricky's song, which is what Ezra was kind of creating over that 124 years. He was creating Ricky's song, but he could never complete it. And when he finally finished it, it was her wedding song, which was super cute. He has gray hairs now. It's definitely giving like Age of Adeline, like my man's finally aging, which is beautiful. Uh, Ricki at the very end goes outside towards her shop, which is in the bottom part of the brownstone. And she says, "Thanks, Miss Stella, my angel." And Miss Stella brings the scent of blooming jasmine as a response, like, "You're welcome, like I'm here for you." And the last line of the book is, "The slight ruffle of the wind was my response. It delicately twisted her hair, and her dress is carried off a seasoned scent of night blooming jasmine, a scent so inexplicable and inevitable as love itself." This book was so beautiful. I would happily reread it. Like the audiobook was absolutely gorgeous. I'm sorry for going feral, but this book was absolutely gorgeous. Like I loved the tension, the love, the found family. Miss Stella fulfilled that motherly need and that support that Ricki really needed. So just seeing that in this book, there was love on so many levels. You had Tuesday and Ricky's friendship. You had Della and Ricky's mother-daughter kind of element of like finding someone who's like a mom to you. You had Ezra and his cousin kind of growing up together, and then later seeing the loss of his cousin and just the grief of that. You get self-love, Ricki eventually beginning to find more friends, trusting in her business and her abilities. There are so many forms of love in this book, and it's so classic. I could definitely see this becoming one of my favorite books of all time. It's going to make it on one of my favorite books of 2026, hands down. And I highly, highly recommend it. I hope you enjoyed this episode. And I also hope that you have a wonderful day.